welcome everyone. For those of you who haven't joined us before, we will be hosted by Dennis Hamilton, who is Overpass's sales manager and sales expert with over 30 years of experience running his own companies and working with the Fortune 500. So we're really happy to have him to discuss interviewing with Overpass and how to be successful in interviewing. Just as a few housekeeping items, please use either the chat or the Q&A section in order to ask questions. We will be answering them at the end. And if you do want to talk and ask your question, we will limit you to around 2, just so we can give everyone a chance to ask what they need. With that, I'll turn it over to Dennis to walk us through being successful on an Overpass interview.
Right. Good day, everybody. So if we look back at what we've gone over since we started the webinars, I think our first one, we talked a little bit about goal setting and how to set goals. And then from there, we talked about how to set your office space up. Last week, we visited about optimizing your profile. So just as a sidebar comment, all these are available on our YouTube channel, right, Mia?
So the one from last week is available on our YouTube channel, but we do have a drive where you can access all of the videos that we will be sending out as well.
Awesome. Awesome. So if you haven't made the others, there's always catch up because there's a reason for the order that we're doing these in. So today, what we're going to talk about is interviews. And I want to give you some insight since my team is the one that coordinates all those interviews and many times is in those interview blocks with you. So if you've ever been on an Overpass interview, they could be done over the phone on the system, excuse me, but more times than not, they're actually done on a Google Meet with the account executive and the client. So first of all, let's talk about the importance of the interview. Literally, I mean, everybody's heard the term, but you cannot imagine how important this is in an interview. You only get one chance to make a first impression. That's it. And on an interview, there's never a second chance. I cannot remember one client ever that thought, I kind of like that person. Could we maybe set up a second interview? Never seen it happen ever. So if they don't have a good first impression of you, you're probably not going to get the opportunity for a second one. Now, you can always get an opportunity for another interview, right? So you can learn from one so you know how to engage in the next. The second one is it shows your unique ability to sell yourself. So keep in mind that all of our roles are sales roles. So if a client isn't convinced that you can sell yourself, how could he possibly be convinced that you could sell his product or service to his prospects or clients, right? Extremely important. And then this can be a make or break moment, even for an ideal contractor. I have literally had contractors that I've worked with before that maybe had a bad interview or a bad day or didn't shake off a bad experience. Maybe previously in that day, maybe they had a bad call that got to them that did not interview well, that I knew would be a perfect fit for that position, but they ended up not getting it because of how they reacted in the interview. So what does it take to ace an interview? There's basically 5 things we're going to talk about. Then we're going to roll into a little role play. And I'm going to interview as Overpass with Chris Runnels, who is going to interview for a business development rep position. So the first thing we want to point out is always be prepared. Suit up and show up. You would be amazed the times that we have seen children playing in the background, roosters buzzing, somebody in a tank top. We end those interviews in the first 4 to 5 minutes. You're done before you start. We're just going to move on. So you've got to suit up and show up and look like you're serious about getting that job. Talk directly to the opportunity. Ask questions. And I know this sounds almost impossible at times, but don't get nervous. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth. So when we talk about be prepared, you know, I'd use the analogy of if you're going on a hiking trip and you're going to be out in the wilderness, you're definitely going to bring all the gear you need to survive during that wilderness experience. It's kind of the same thing on an interview. So the things, the tools that you need in your toolkit before you get on, study the company, look at that company's website, figure out what they do, who's involved in the organization. If you can find it in their website, how long they've been in business, read through the job description of exactly what they're looking for in the position that they're filling. Study the opportunity, back to looking at the job post. What exactly are they saying they want a contractor to fulfill? And guys, there's nothing wrong with turning down an interview. In other words, if you see a job position and we request an interview from you, you go, that's not really what I want to do. We would rather you turn that interview block down, that interview opportunity down, as we would you show up and take a contract that is not going to be a good fit. We have a lot of opportunities. Make sure it's the right one for you. Get rid of distractions. We've talked about setting up your office and noise canceling headsets. Please make sure there's no background noise. Please make sure that if you don't have a good background behind you, load a digital background. I don't care if it's solid white. It does not matter. It will be fine as a digital background behind you. This is my actual office, but you know, it's not digital, but a digital is way better than I actually had an interview the other day who our CEO happened to be on, and a gentleman showed up in his clothing closet with no digital background. That interview lasted about 4.5 minutes. Case in point, get rid of the distractions. If you know, maybe you've got an Amazon package showing up, or you know, maybe the dog is subject to bark, feed them before you get on the interview, whatever it takes, but just make sure there's none of those distractions that's going to distract you during the interview process. And have a questions list ready. This is super important. If you ask that client questions at the end of the Q&A session, you'll double your chances of getting that position. Here's why: because the client's going to feel like the opportunity is important to you, and it's important enough for you to ask questions to get further information on the interview. So never be afraid to ask questions during the interview. Suit up and show up. Business casual. Make sure you're wearing a collared shirt or a business casual shirt. Like I wear these little, I look like a Southern Baptist preacher most of the time, right? I'm wearing these little non-collared shirts, but make sure you're wearing a nice shirt or blouse. Watch your grooming. You know, I've literally been on interviews where people look like they just got out of bed and their hair standing straight up. It's not going to last very long. Check your background, like we mentioned before, and be exactly on time or a minute early. This is really important because on our Google Meet interviews, we have all of you on the same link. If you show up 5 minutes early, we're going to kick you off the interview. So it needs to be within a minute of your time or right at your time when you show up to that interview. Otherwise, you're going to be barging into somebody else's interview. Does that make sense? You're going to come on and they're going to be interviewing somebody else. Talk directly to the opportunity. Another thing that we see that just pains us when we see it, because we're going, oh, this isn't going to end well. Speak of your relative experience that directly relates to this position. In other words, you may be, let's say you're interviewing for a software as a service company. And maybe it's the first time you've ever done software as a service. Glean the experience out of your previous positions that would be directly relevant to what they need to sell software as a service. It could be organizational skills. It could be that personally, I'm very good at technology and catch on quickly, but mention the things that directly relate to the opportunity, because sometimes people will start talking about their favorite job they ever had, which has nothing to do with the job at hand. And the client will make a decision not to hire you because you didn't speak directly to their opportunity. If you have a question in an interview, just restate the question and like, I understood that you asked me this. Is that correct? So in other words, if you don't really understand the question that an interviewer may have asked you, ask them to restate it, or you restate it back to them to make sure you're not answering something that they're not asking you. And then whatever you do, please don't ramble. We'll get people on there and they get nervous and they'll start talking about their dog, their sister, their cousin, their doctor's appointment. It doesn't fare well in an interview. So stay on point and try to stay as focused as you possibly can. Ask questions. Have them ready beforehand. Ask the interview to clarify if you don't understand a question. Be interested in the client's goals. One of the best interview questions a contractor can ever ask a client is, where do you see your company going? Where do you want to get to with this initiative? You ask those sort of questions about their company and their job, you're going to pique their interest to get on that team. And then here's another one that gets a lot of people. Don't overemphasize hourly rates. You need to look at the total opportunity. So if we have contractors on and we see that all they're worried about is an hourly rate, you're usually not going to make it. You're usually not going to get that job. We want people that are focused more on the commission and doubling that paycheck than they are the base rate. Now, that does not mean take a contract with a poor base rate. It needs to be commensurate with your skill set and your experience, but you need to be focused on the opportunity, the total opportunity, and not just the hourly rate. We'll actually get in interviews and people will try to be negotiating their hourly rate in the interview process. Bad form, you won't get the job. Because we will sit there and go, I would not select that person, and here's why. Like, the client won't even have to think it, we'll suggest it if we see that. It's sales. This is what we do. Almost every opportunity we have offers commission. We want to have people with enough confidence that know that they can deliver against the expectation of that job and half again or double up their paychecks. That's what we're looking for. And that's pretty typical, right? That you have a chance to make 150% or 200% of your base rate. Don't get nervous. Easier said than done. Take a deep breath before the interview. Kill all distractions 5 minutes before the interview, if possible. Don't come running into an interview in the last minute with your hair on fire. What that says, if you start getting nervous, is you weren't prepared, or you're not able to adapt to a high pressure situation, or take a minute to gather your thoughts if you're stumped. Sometimes you'll get stumped on a question. It's okay. That 10-15 second pause to use seems like 2 hours, but it's only 10 or 15 seconds. So if you need to process and think about a question before you respond to it, don't just blurt something out to give a quick answer. Think about it and give an educated answer back to the interview. Take deep breaths during the interview, relax, and keep it conversational. Most important of all, make it a conversation, not a question and answer session. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little role play with Mr. Chris. How are we doing on time? 16 minutes. We're golden. So we're going to do a quick format interview. So this is a typical interview scenario that you're going to see when you come on to an overpass interview. Okay. And here's the ground rules. Here's how we set it up with the client. Mr. Client, please explain your opportunity to the contractor. Explain what you do and the opportunity at hand. Mr. or Mrs. Contractor, please explain to the client why you think you're the perfect fit for this job. And then when we're done with that, we're going to do some questions and answers. We say the same thing every time, every interview. And because sometimes your client's nervous too. Sometimes they don't have that much interview experience. So we're coaching the client along with trying to help coach you guys in the interview process. So let's say Mr. Runnels, Chris, is applying to Overpass for a business development rep position. So this would be calling cold prospects for Overpass in order to glean interest or intent of a client that's going to hire somebody sometime in the near future. That's the opportunity. Let's say the opportunity pays $12 an hour and offers a commission of $10 every time they bring us a valid lead to the table. So that's the outline of the job post that you would read before. I'm using Overpass as the example because you guys don't need to do any research on us. You already know what we do. So Chris, without further ado, Mr. Runnels, thank you for being with us today. What I want to do real quick is kind of explain the opportunity I have at hand. Okay. And then what I need you to do is kind of explain to me why you think you'd be a perfect fit for that job. And then afterwards, we'll just do some questions and answers. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about Overpass.
Dennis, I'm so sorry. I think it'd be better if they could see you face to face, if you wouldn't mind sharing your screen. And then I think that'd be easier if they can see you. So
thank you.
More of a thing. Yep. So sorry to interrupt, but I just realized.
Is that better?
Much better. I think that's perfect. All right. Thank you. All right. Continue.
So Chris, Overpass has been in business. Are you still with us, Chris?
I'm still here.
Okay, cool. Oh, now I see you. Overpass has been in business for about 7 years. There's basically 3 things that we do. We have a talent base of about 5,000 contractors with previous sales and marketing experience that are available to work for you on your particular project or sales team. The second thing we do is we have a technology system that you can choose, or they can use your own tools, but that is available to you if you want an operating system for them to do their calls, a light CRM. It's also their time clock. It's also your hiring platform, et cetera. And the third thing that we do is we do payment facilitation. So we make sure that the contractors get paid every week. So that being said, what we're looking for in this particular position is somebody to do cold outreach to clients. And what we're looking for is clients that have a business that have intent, either current or within 90-day intent of hiring somebody onto their sales team. Once you identify that, we want you to turn those clients over to one of our account executives so they can set up a demo, talk about our products and services, et cetera. So now that you know the opportunity, I think you saw the job post and saw what it paid. What I'd like you to do is tell me a little bit about your past experience and tell me why you think you might be a good fit for the position.
Sure. And first off, just want to say thank you very much for this opportunity. I have well over a decade of experience in B2B experience. Sounds to me this position is a true setter closer arena. So setting up, teeing off, lead off to, a closer or someone in the next step of the process, no problem at all. Work very well with clients. I make friends. I establish long-lasting relationships. The very process oriented. I adapt to change. I understand this particular industry is very fast paced, changes on the fly, no problem. And obviously very demanding. I was told a long time ago to have thick skin and short memory. So as far as adapting to change or having rough days and carrying it on to the next day, not going to happen.
So tell me about your most successful experience in business to business sales, how you got to that victory, and who was involved in helping you with that success.
Can you say that one more time, please?
Sure.
I just want to make sure
I'd
I'm
like to
answering
hear
correctly.
about your biggest victory, your biggest success in business to business sales and this sort of a position.
Okay.
What you did to get that victory and who else was involved with you to get you to that level of success.
Okay. So actually it was a few years back. I was in the real estate industry and I was actually a setter. We had a setter closer type of environment. So we had to wear what are called lenders for people that flipped properties, and we would go out there and mine or drum up business. And so I would make that initial reach out or that initial contact. Turns out that it was an investor that invested internationally. So handing that over to the closer, it turned out to be actually it was a multi-million-dollar venture for our company.
Awesome. And who helped you to get that success?
I was actually the owner of our company. He would have constant or routine trainings. It was always, the psychology of the sale, and then just knowing what to say, when to say it, when not to say at the time. So, his name was Armando.
Cool. So let me ask you this. If I were to call your last 3 employers and ask them to rate you on your organizational skills on a rating of 1 to 10, what do you think that blended average would be?
Only 10? Oh, wow. No, it would probably be about 100. I'm very well organized. I've been told that I have what's called email OCD. So that's where you basically I refuse to have a scroll bar in my inbox. I have folders mixed in with subfolders in my inbox or my email. So as soon as that email comes in, it's what can I do to get that out? As far as spreadsheets goes, absolutely. Looking at processes, again, process oriented as well, looking at a process, seeing if I can make it bigger, better, faster. Just trying to overall help out not only my position, but as a team and then as a company, trying to make us all better.
Awesome. Let me ask you this, ask about a great experience. Tell me about your worst experience in sales, that's something that went terribly wrong and how you recovered from that.
No, I can't, doesn't ring a bell. No, we've all had those days, of course. So worst day of sales. There's been plenty. Let's be honest, there's been plenty, but one that, truly comes to mind. actually, I had I was an account representative for Dell, and we had assigned accounts, and at the end of the day, the I had this just monster of a deal. They just gotten their funding and everything was good. I was being told, yes, you're the one. We're going to go through you, all the systems, software licensing, everything. And someone above him pulled the rug out underneath both of us and decided to go with our competitor, who he was working with behind the scenes.
HP.
HP.
I've given Dell about $500,000 over the years. I understand them well. I understand
Oh,
them
really?
well.
Really? Nice.
Oh yeah. Okay, so let me ask you another question. Let's say I call the same 3 employers and I ask them a different question. And I said, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how coachable do you think that Chris would be?
Oh, again, 100. I'm absolutely coachable. I would come into the position and learn the process. You guys tell me how you want it. You program me exactly the way you want me to be programmed. But yeah, as far as asking anybody, no problems. They'll tell you I'm very adaptable, very coachable, and
Cool.
won't have any problems with me.
So if you only had time to ask me one question today, I'd like to hear the most important question, and I'm limiting it to 1.
One question. Okay. Well, based on, I mean, you have my resume. So based on my resume in this interview today, is there any reason why you wouldn't consider me being the top candidate for this position?
Actually, no. Great question. All right.
Great. When do I start?
We'll be back to you by the end of the day, latest tomorrow, and
Okay.
we'll let you know our final decision. We do have a couple more interviews. I sure hope that I get 3 more candidates even better than you were, because I'll have the best team known to man and I'll hire you too. How does that sound?
Sounds like a plan. Let's go.
Awesome. You have a great day, Chris. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thank you. Take care, guys.
Okay. So there's a very typical interview scenario. There's 5 things that I want to know from that candidate. I want to know their coachability. I want to know their transparency, how transparent they were with me. I want to know their desire level, which I can usually get out of their tone. I want to know about their organizational skills, and I want to know about their humility, which is why I would ask a question. Tell me about your biggest success and who was involved in that success being a reality. So those are the 5 areas that we even train, and we're going to hand out. We're going to give you a cheat sheet. Since you took the time to show up today, we're actually going to hand you out the document we give to our clients that is a coaching form on how to run a 30-minute phone interview. So you can read through that and actually see exactly what we send every single client before the interview block. So Mia, I think it's probably a pretty good time, because I think I did good, right? I got that into 30 minutes. I was amazed.
Yeah, that is really impressive, Dennis. We're at 4:27. So great job.
I know. So let's open this up for some Q&A, and there's no wrong questions, and it does not, I mean, it's great if it's on topic, but it could be for other topics as well as it relates to overpass.
Yep. And again, you can put your questions either in the chat or the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, and we'll answer them as they come in. So anything about interviewing, overpass interviewing, general stuff, or any general question you may have.
And guys, keep in mind that the people on this call, like Chris, is actually an account executive of ours. I oversee all the account executives. I'm not real big on titles, but we've got 10 account executives, 2 BDRs, and a sales operations person that fall underneath my umbrella. So directly or indirectly, I'm involved in every single interview that happens on Overpass. So a decent resource now that you got me on the phone. Some of you already know me, a lot of you don't. Ooh, light on questions today.
I know. Maybe
I'm
people
gonna
are
start calling you guys out and asking you questions if you
I
don't ask.
know. Maybe people are still typing them out, or they were just so impressed with how well that interview went that they're still taking notes on what they should be doing in their next interview. But here,
Chris,
asks if he got the job.
that's another good point. Follow up after the interview. if you have a good interview, always make sure you follow up with the account executive to let them know that you're still interested. Because you probably won't have the direct contact info for the client. You may or may not, but make sure you follow up. That's extremely important.
Dennis, I actually have a question. Regarding the initial kind of interview setup, are the AEs coaching the contractors at all for what the interview will entail, or kind of what is that initial process like to make sure that contractors are as prepared as they can be?
I wish we had that sort of time.
Okay.
Sometimes they will on a really hard to find position, but more times or not, you're going to walk into that interview and hear exactly what came out of my mouth.
Okay.
Mr. Client, please describe your opportunity. Mr. Contractor, tell them why you're a perfect fit. We'll close with some question and answer sessions. That's why meetings like this are so important. I mean, this is the time that we do have allotted that we can help you out as far as some insider tips. And keep in mind that you're competing for this job as well, right? So just so you know, our usual ratio is there's 2 people interviewing for every 1 open contract. So it's almost always a 2-to-1 ratio, just so you know. So if that contractor is hiring 3 people, there's usually 6 of you interviewing for that position. And the reason for that is a lot of times it's just personality, whether that clicks with the client. So it may not even be your skill set. In fact, sometimes at the end of an interview block, we'll go, are you sure you're making that decision? Like, it wouldn't have been the people we would have picked. And like, why would why did you make that decision? And they'll explain why. It's like, makes perfect sense. Let's go ahead and make the job offers, right? And we'll walk them right through the contract offers.
Got it. We have a couple questions that trickled in. This one is less interview specific, but more working with the client. So Gina Lynn asks, what do you do when you're dialing out of the overpass system and the client can't track your calls? So they think that you aren't dialing and logging in and just logging in for hours and pay.
If they are calling on the overpass system, just so you know, they can track your calls. You don't see this when you log in, but they actually have a dashboard that shows exactly how many calls you've made, emails you've sent out, etc. They also have another dashboard that shows the results of those calls. They can listen to your calls. Your calls are recorded, and they can even live listen to a call. Literally, while you're in the call, they can be listening to that call. So I think there may be some misunderstanding, but go ahead and we can do a follow-up on that question. But if the client's on the overpass system, they can see your activity, every ounce of it.
Yeah, let me let Gina Lynn speak, because I think this.
Yeah, because I think there's more to that question that I'm missing.
Yeah. So go, Gina Lynn, you can go ahead and unmute and ask your question to Dennis live.
Hey guys, thanks so much for, taking up my question. So yeah, I just had like sort of an issue with my client last week. They accused me of not dialing apparently. And so I told them that, I have my calls on Zoom. I could take screenshots of it. I could even show you the SMS that I send. So what I did is I canceled the contract. I'm sure some of the agents know on Overpass, I canceled the contract, and then I let my client know that I'm still willing to meet up with them just so that I can clarify everything that's going on. So we had a meeting, and then I actually showed them everything. I shared my screen. I told them what I was doing, the process that I'm doing. So then they were like, oh, okay, well, that's our bad. We're just going to go ahead and put you back on contract. So they sent me another contract again. And I just,
I'm like, wait a minute, cancel the contract. We're back on a contract. I do remember this.
Yep. So I was actually quite confused as well. And I don't know, my heart just, I just felt kind of disappointed that they would think that of me in the first place. And I'm just working with them because I really want to show them that I can do it. But like in the long run, I'm not really sure because they're quite indecisive. Just now they sent me another contract lowering my rate again. So it's quite confusing.
Okay, so there's a few good points here, but the first one, let me point out that if you were making Zoom calls, you were not using the Overpass platform.
Yeah.
Zoom isn't part of Overpass. So you were working off platform. So you're basically just clocking your hours and then using whatever platform they ask you to use. So in that case, they don't have any transparency, or they should, if it's their system. They may not. Obviously, in this case, they did not. But you bring up an interesting point. excuse me, guys, I've got a bit of a raspy throat this week, so I'm sitting here eating Hall's cough drops while I'm talking to you. If you get into a contract and you see a lot of contract instability, like this would definitely qualify as this. I will tell you what I would do personally. How's this, gentlemen?
Yeah, that would be great.
I would put my contract back to considering opportunities, and I would keep actively interviewing with other clients, because I remember this. And if like you're off one day, then you're back the next day, and then now they want to lower your rate, that would be the perfect definition of contract instability. And you will see that I get involved in a lot of these meetings when a client even gets angry of like, well, this doesn't work. And I'll go back in and go, well, what did you do? And then I'll go, well, it doesn't sound like you have an organized sales process, much less are you on top of your own business. How do you expect a contractor to be able to thrive under that atmosphere?
Yeah.
And I have a lot of those conversations. They're very direct. I was a business owner for 3 decades, so it's hard for them to story to me. And I started out my career as a credit manager. So like I've been lied to, storied to, and been around the block a time or two. So I can usually help go in, which is the preference, and coach your client how to interface with you better. But at the same time, if I saw that level of instability with a client, I would put myself available for opportunities, because you'll still be searched for other interview opportunities. So I'd hedge my in that case. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. Thanks so much. I
Because
appreciate
it.
it.
You guys, the same as we have with the clients.
Okay.
And depending on the client, sometimes more so. We lean toward your side, not theirs.
Thanks so much, Dennis.
Yeah, you bet.
Thanks, Jeanlyn. We have another question from Desiree. She asks, how long after the interview should you wait to follow up?
If you don't hear that day, I would be following up the next business day. Business day, like on a Saturday or Sunday. It's like if you interviewed on Friday, I'd get back Monday, or unless the account executive told you, hey, they're not gonna make a decision for 2 days. Unless they told you otherwise, I'd always be following back up the next business day. And our account executives are trained to try to get them to make decisions the same day and to notify you within 1 business day, whether you got the position or not. Sometimes we get super busy, guys. We kind of run in flushes of clients, or sometimes we'll get very large accounts that are hiring 10, 12, 15 people. So I'm not saying we're 100% accurate, but we try to be about 90% accurate with getting back to you within 1 business day. Now, sometimes, now that question came up, the client will delay. Let me give you another tip. If you haven't heard back in 72 hours, keep taking interviews. Because I'll tell you that client, if they don't hire the same day, every day they wait lowers the probability of them hiring 50%. So the next day, there's only 50-50 chance they're going to hire. Next day, it's 25. Next day, it's 12. And in about 5 days, we already know they're off the radar. They're not going to hire. Does that make sense? Okay.
Thanks, Dennis. Next question we have from Jadana asking, hey guys, so what if you're extremely prepared for the interview, but you get nervous when the interview starts? What should I do to ensure that I stay calm for the interview?
Everybody's got different tricks and trades. I'll tell you what I've done in my life. It's called distracting pain. I'm not saying it's the best thing to do, but literally I'll take a finger and bend it back underneath the table just to get my mind thinking about something else. Or I'll take deep breaths, or I'll pause before I give responses. And those pauses, again, like I stated before, they seem like an eternity, but they're not. And it actually shows the client that you're thinking about your response. But I got to tell you, if you've got a role play in the mirror before an interview, do it. Because that nervousness will bleed over as they don't have enough confidence to sell. And many times that's not the case. You just get nervous in the interview process. And we totally understand that. But like distracting pain, no interruptions 5 minutes before the interview, take deep breaths, think before you answer the question, take all the time you need before you answer. Better to give a slow answer than a bad answer any day of the week in an interview. And then just try to keep it conversational. You know, ask them a question about how long you've been in business or whatever, you know, ask the client a question is a good way to get a distracting moment so you can recompose yourself as well.
Great advice. I'm a big proponent of the breath thing. I
Mhm.
breathe a lot when I'm nervous. Awesome. So this is from Lanice. She's asking, she's an independent business owner and would like to know if you can send her over the Overpass pricing plan. She wants to know what Overpass has to offer independent owners. And she also gave her email address. So Dennis, I'm sure you
Absolutely.
probably want to take that offline.
Yeah, if you could just collect that for me, Mia, that'd be
Yep.
amazing. And
Absolutely.
if we could have your phone number and your email, it's all we need, and your name. And I'll have one of the account executives reach out to you no later than tomorrow.
Yeah, so Lanice, we have your email. I've already recorded it, but if you also could just shoot over your phone number, we'll go ahead and have the team give you a call. Great. Okay. Any other burning interview questions from our participants today? No. Dennis, you must have just been doing such a great job these past couple of weeks because we just haven't been getting as many questions.
Hey,
Oh, go ahead.
I did want to mention one thing. We've got 4,288 live profiles on our platform. I'm seeing in these meetings, we're getting between 25 and 50 people coming on a week. I would mention to like people, you know, in the platform and everything else, if you want to get ahead in Overpass, because we see when you're involved, I look at the list of names and we kind of are like, we look at this as putting forth the extra effort in order to get placed. And also the price is right. So in my past career, I charged $150 an hour just to show up to your door and say hi to you. This costs nothing. So you've got free training that's available to you each and every week. Make sure you invite friends and let's get more of the community involved. And also on the Facebook page. I try to stay as active on there as I can and try to answer questions. I know Josh answers questions and several of us do, but that's a good place as well. But we want to form a good contractor community. You'll see that I'm doing a lot of things on the backside in the sales department that we're going to start forming a law of attraction to an interview block, which is going to start happening about the first quarter of next year. So instead of us going out searching for you, you're going to need to find the opportunity. But we're going to give you all the tools you need to do that. So we're kind of making a law of attraction back to our interview blocks. And you'll see that actually we're making a slow move to move every single interview onto the Overpass platform as well. So we've got some interesting things coming down the chute, but it's really important that you are attending these meetings so you know what's coming next, because it's going to vastly improve your chances of getting the right contract. Because getting a contract is a way to pay the rent, but getting the right contract is a way to really feel fulfilled and make some really good income.
Also, just to add to that, I put the Facebook group in the chat. So anyone who isn't already a part of the Facebook group can just join it with that click. And I also want to confirm and inform you all that you do not need to be live on the platform in order to join these trainings. That's very important. A couple of people asked that in the group. This is open to everyone. So when Dennis says bring your friends, we do literally want you to bring their friends. Bring your friends, even if they haven't created a profile yet. We will also provide the information. You will get money if you refer someone. As we've been emphasizing, we have a really great referral program for our contractors. So again, this isn't some sort of secretive exclusive club. This is something we want everyone to benefit from and be a part of. And as Dennis mentioned, we see your names, we see who shows up every week. So when the sales team is thinking of people, your name will be up there. And even if you haven't done a profile yet, if I see like, oh yes, that person was at, the Overpass training during the actual onboarding TA process, you can be sped up the priority list as well. So just want to emphasize that because don't want there to be any confusion about who can come, who can benefit. It really is open to everyone.
And also remember, your first interview is with Mia's team before you ever get to talk to a client. You have the pre-interview.
So yes, if anyone has questions about that initial pre-onboarding interview with my team, I would be happy to answer that as well. It's not as structured as we went through here. It's a bit more open about your experience, but happy to go through that as well if anyone would like to discuss. Oh, you're welcome, Linda. We're happy to do it. We're happy to do it.
So next week, guys, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start getting into sales topics. So we've done 4 different series on setup, right? How to get from starting, setting an initial goal of what you want in your life all the way through the interview process. But next week, we're going to start in with some really meat and potatoes, basic core sales training, getting around gatekeepers, handling objections, rebuttals, approach, when to bring value proposition to the table. A lot of really cool things that you can use day in and day out to make sure that you're maximizing the income that you're making per hour for every hour you invest with your client.
Awesome. Thanks, Dennis. And we'll work on spreading the word. You guys work on spreading the word about that. Dennis is, full of knowledge about this, and everyone really will benefit from hearing from him and listening to him. So again, as Dennis mentioned, all of this information will be shared with you via email because you all attended. And for previous webinars and recordings, as well as the PDFs, they will be on our Facebook page. We have a drive, and eventually they will be put on the Overpass website as well. So be on the lookout in your emails over the next couple of days for that. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Our team is very responsive. And other than that, if there's no other questions, thank you all again for attending. Thanks, Chris, for being part of our role play today. That was really fun. And we're looking forward to seeing you all next week. Have a wonderful day, evening.
Thanks, guys.
All right, bye-bye.